Hello friends, I wanted to chat with you today about my continuous glucose monitor. There it is, right there. I'm gonna explain to you what it is, what I've learned so far. I've been wearing it for 5 days, and my experience. So I was approached by a company called Levels to try out their new product, and I wasn't really interested in continuous glucose monitoring, I'll tell you that much. I didn't know that it was accessible for people, and I really have steered away from testing my ketone levels, glucose levels, tracking my macros, weighing myself, only because I am very triggered by it, just personally with my experience with an eating disorder. And I really have found a happy place in the last 6 years of eating keto where I don't really feel like I need to test. Now, oftentimes I will track my meals just in a little journal, maybe once a month, just to kind of check in with myself. And a couple days later, I'll add it to a food tracker just to see how things are going with curiosity. But on a daily basis, I've kind of tried to not avoid, but just I find I don't need to track, having been keto for 6 years. But when I was approached by this Levels company, I said, you know what? Let's give it a try. I interviewed one of the co-founders, Casey, that's going to be going live on the podcast in November. And after we had this conversation, I got really excited at the potential of wearing a continuous glucose monitor and getting to learn more about how your body responds to food, exercise, thoughts. And so I applied to the program. I'm going to be including a link down below where you can learn more about the program if you find like it will work best for you. And there's going to be multiple videos in this series as I learn about how it works and what I like about it. So I applied to the program. And within the program, you are connected with the doctor. They give you a prescription for a continuous glucose monitor that's created by Abbott. And so I got my package about 2 weeks later, and within that package there was a 2 continuous glucose monitors, because the little patches only last for 14 days, in addition to some stickers. And so I'm wearing the sticker only because I was worried that that little like quarter size piece on my arm would like get ripped off. I don't know, I was concerned about it, and as somebody who's quite active and swims all the time, I just wanted to protect it. So I got the package in the mail, and then I opened it up and I saw how big the little needle thing was that went in my arm. I was like, no way I can do this. There needs to be a doctor present. My husband encouraged me to just give it a try and poke myself. I'm really bad with needles. I've had a lot of bad experiences giving myself injections, being around needles. Now, if somebody else is doing it, I'm totally fine. But the minute I'm holding that thing in my arm, I pass out or throw up. It's really bad. So I laid on my stomach. I cleaned my arm with alcohol. They provide it in the pack. I laid on my stomach and I told my husband to push and inject this little thing. It comes with a little injector. It's actually super easy to push it onto your arm. So he pushed, it went in. I felt nothing. And for a little bit, I could definitely feel like there was something like stuck to my arm, but I didn't feel it go in. I didn't feel a needle. I don't feel it now. He put the little sticker on, and there we have it. So how does the continuous glucose monitor work? I was very confused by this, and I watched all the tutorials and really couldn't understand how it all worked. So I'll try to explain it here. You download 2 apps. One is the Libre Link app. Now this is what you are scanning your arm with. Now at first I thought that I had to scan my arm every 5 minutes or 15 minutes, that I had to do it manually. After a couple of days, I realized that this bad boy will hold 8 hours of scans. So you do not need to scan it every 15 minutes. You can kind of set it, forget it. And when I wake up first thing in the morning, right before lunch, and when I go to bed is when I scan it. And then it just uploads all of the data that it held for the last 8 hours. Now, if you forget and you go like 9 hours or 10 hours, or you sleep longer, you will lose the initial data. So say you go to bed at 10 and you wake up at 8 a.m., you're gonna lose between 10 and midnight if you didn't scan anywhere in that 10-hour period. Does that make sense? So I like to scan every 8 hours, 6 hours or so, just boop, whenever I remember. And then it uploads the information to LibreLink. Now, that's good enough-ish, but what I started to realize very quickly with LibreLink is there was no way to track what I was eating. There was no way to track what I was exercising. There was no way to zoom in to what I was seeing and what my levels were. So it was very hard to kind of like summarize what was happening. It's very clear to get a number, like you put it up and then it shows you and it tells you whether whether your glucose is remaining steady across, or if it's increasing, it'll show an arrow, or fastly decreasing, it'll show an arrow going down. And so I like those functions, but what really drew me to enjoy the Levels app was the fact that you can track your meals and your exercise, and then it gives you a 2-hour window. This was something I also struggled with understanding at first. It gives you a 2-hour window after you've eaten that thing or after you've done that exercise, and it shows you what happened to your blood glucose within that time. So when I first started using the Levels app, what happens is that the Libre link will send the information to the Levels app, so you don't need to worry about it. It will just automatically send it over, and you start to see different charts and different ways that you can track your food and exercise. Now, there's no way to track your macros, how many carbohydrates you ate that resulted in the increase in your blood glucose. So it gives you a metabolic rating, but that metabolic rating is really just how much or how quickly you spiked up, how quickly you went down, how often you were outside of the ranges. Their ranges are between 70 milligrams per deciliter and 110 milligrams per deciliter. Now you can change those ranges if you'd like, but that's what I set on there as my range. And so the metabolic rate, like the percentage you see within the app, really is just based on how quick you go up, how quick you go down, and how often you stay in that level. The problem I have with this, and this is just the beta version, so they may change it, is that it doesn't allow you to track your calories, or rather track your carbohydrates. So, yesterday I played around with having paleo waffles. It didn't have grains. It only used palm sugar. It was a very low sweetener meal, and my glucose went up to, I think the highest was 240 milligrams per deciliter for paleo waffles. And so that was probably, I would guess, around 140 grams of carbs, 120, 140 grams of carbs for these waffles. And so I would really like to know what that amount of carbohydrate, was it actually awesome that it went up and back down again? I'm not really sure. But what I really like about the Levels app is that I'm able to zoom in and really get a full picture of like how it's going. What surprised me so far over the last 5 days of monitoring my glucose, how often I'm actually quite low, around 50, 55 milligrams per deciliter. How when I'm going down, say I've had a meal and I was at 90 milligrams per deciliter, as it starts to decrease, I actually get snacky. And so I can pinpoint it. When I start to get snacky, I can grab my phone, put it up to my arm, and guaranteed I'm lowering from that meal. Another huge surprise, and I guess it's not really a surprise, but definitely was a really good indication of the type of eating style that I'm on. When I ate chicken wings out with friends, I had chicken wings, chickpeas, salad, Italian dressing. It did zero to my blood glucose. Zero, rather, not my blood glucose, because it does monitor something a little bit different, which I will explain in another video because I'm still learning about it. It affected my glucose zero. Like, it went up by 2 milligrams per deciliter and then quickly went down and even further went down. And so I feel like this tool is going to be really great for people that are having a hard time managing their metabolism on the ketogenic diet, who aren't losing weight as quickly as they want, who are struggling to figure out why they have certain reactions to food. For example, I have a very adverse reaction to coffee, specifically black coffee. When I drink black coffee, I start to feel really low, I start to get really hungry, and oftentimes the women that I work with on the ketogenic diet, when they're having their rocket fuel lattes or their fatty coffees or their black coffees in the morning, they're starting to get hungrier earlier. And they're wondering why. Well, it could very well be our glucose. And by really understanding our levels, understanding how our body reacts to food, we can better create a bio-individual diet for ourselves. So I still have a couple of weeks using this product. I'm making videos like this as I go so that I can highlight all of my experience in a blog post which I will link to down below, or perhaps you're already watching this on the blog post that I've created. And I really wanted to do a play-by-play of my experience using the monitor. So far, I've been really happy with where it's sitting, other than I can't do certain yoga poses because it rests on it, and I'm just worried something's gonna happen. So maybe I will give that a try and see if it rips out and report back, but I've been avoiding things like crow, side crow, just because I don't want it to rip out. But so far, so good, and I will be back soon with another update. Bye!